Hello, Royalers. Welcome to Royal, Black, and Elite. I'm Lady Trinette Wilson, and today's lecture brings to light a figure that, for some, made a significant difference for the civil rights of Black people, while others say he was a con man using religion to fill his pockets. His name was Father Divine, and I thought this would be a great lecture because just a few weeks ago, the comedian Drewski did a skit that poked fun at the way preachers too often focus on money. Well, with a name like Father Divine, these prosperity preachers of today are light work compared to him. He passed worth what today would be $84 million in 1965. Some call him the most controversial religious figure of our lifetime, while others would say he was a good man. Let's get into his story. Welcome, everyone. So glad you tuned in to learn about our complex and fascinating Black history. Thank you all for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And as you can tell, I'm trying something new today. Let me know what you think about George Baker Jr. by the end of our lesson. Who is George Baker Jr.? That would be Father Divine, who was born in what was believed to be 1876, although records vary, in Rockville, Maryland, or Hutchinson Island, Georgia. Very little is documented about his early childhood, which adds to the mystery surrounding his life. Federal Bureau of Investigation files record his name as George Baker, alias God. In 1936, Eliza Mayfield claimed to be Father Divine's mother. She stated that his real name was Frederick Edwards from Hendersonville, North Carolina, and he had abandoned a wife and 5 children, but Mayfield offered no proof and claimed not to remember his father's name. Father Divine replied that God has no mother. Some recent research points to him being born in Maryland. As a young man, George Baker worked in various jobs and became deeply interested in religion, spiritual healing, and self-discipline. He was also married before he married his second wife, which we will get into a little later in our lecture. Her name was Peninia, who claimed they were married on June 6, 1882, although there is no written record. It appears to have been more of a spiritual union rather than a legal one. In 1906, when he visited California, he met a man named Charles Fillmore, who was the leader of the New Thought philosophy, a movement that emphasized positive thinking, faith healing, and the belief that the mind could shape reality. These ideas would later become the foundation of his teachings. So these ideas that some of these motivational speakers spout about positive self-talk began long before now. It's just packaged differently. By 1907, Baker began preaching, slowly forming a following and eventually renaming himself Father Major Jealous Divine, and some people called him the Messenger. By the 1920s and 1930s, Father Divine had founded what became known as the International Peace Mission Movement, and he started making some controversial claims. He was only 5 foot 2 inches tall, but it is said he was very charismatic and his preaching was inspiring, filled with emotion and loud enough to make you give your money. And just in case you had any doubt, he claimed to be God incarnate, not in a symbolic sense, but literally divine. His followers believed him, and in return, they were offered something rare at the time: integrated communities, free meals, housing, jobs, and strict moral discipline. Peace Mission homes across the country operated as communal living spaces. Members practiced celibacy, sobriety, and shared resources. Father Divine preached that poverty was a choice and that through faith, discipline, and obedience, people could achieve prosperity. Sound familiar? Meanwhile, he was a millionaire. But that wasn't his only contradiction. During the Great Depression, his movement gained massive traction. While millions were unemployed, Father Divine's followers ate lavish communal meals, sometimes feeding thousands weekly without government assistance because they took care of one another. So, even though he was accused of financial exploitation, he also gave back to his community, unlike some others who strip the neighborhood and don't give anything back at all. Now, we are not going to pretend like accusations that peace missions was a cult weren't well-founded. The man made the people call him Father Divine. He said he was God himself, and he also claimed that people were immortal. When his followers passed, he would say they disappeared. In 1932, he was arrested and jailed, and shortly afterward, the judge who sentenced him was suddenly no longer with us. Followers declared it divine punishment, further fueling his mystique. He was also heavily surveilled by the government, especially as his movement grew in size, wealth, and black integration during a deeply segregated era. This was another area where he seemed hypocritical. Even though he preached black power, after being kinda married to Peninia for several years, he then married a very white woman named Edna Rose Richings and had his black followers call her Mother Divine. Look at these people. What's sad is it's still happening today. If you marry someone outside your race, that's your decision. But when you make your come up off preaching that the white people are doing you wrong, you can see where the divide came in for most people. He also preached lifelong celibacy, and he told his members they could not engage in intimacy, and he never had any children. Father Divine passed away in his 80s after living a long and wealthy life off the back of his followers. He passed at his home called the Woodmont Estate in Pennsylvania, also the headquarters of Peace Mission, on September 10, 1965. A follower had given him the mansion in 1953. His followers were told he had gone away, but those who were honest, they knew he had passed. His wife tried to keep it going, but the membership had dwindled down to nothing, and the cult leader, Jim Jones, was trying to take her spot. So, what do you think? Would you ever call a man Father Divine? Perhaps these prosperity pastors took a page out of his book. Thank you so much for joining me for another great episode of Royal, Black, and Elite. Now remember, my lectures are for entertainment and educational purposes only, and the Fair Use Act is in effect. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, keep learning. YouTube seems to think you would like the next video on the screen. Have a great day.